Hello students, welcome to Chosen Classes. This is a part of series of video lectures targeting Prelims and Mains 2021. This video contains economy related current affairs covering from 16th August till 22nd August. Let's begin. In this beautiful article, some of the options for economic recovery are discussed. Let's have a look at that. The significant reduction in domestic demand resulted in fall in consumption and fall in economy. So in this regard, Mr. Modi has announced a fiscal stimulus package of 20 lakh crore, which is about 10% of GDP. Now, this package helped many businesses for their revival. Now, there is a two-pronged strategy for the revival of economy in the current scenario. One, we need to contain the ill effects caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, and second, we need to take bold steps in order to revive the economy. And in this article, they mentioned that there are four major players which help in the economic growth. They are big businesses. They not only contribute largest amount to the GDP, they are also providers of employment. 2. MSMEs. MSMEs are not only the lifeline of the country, they also generate wealth to the middle class. 3. Startups. Startups bring innovation and technology to the country. And 4th, non-resident Indians and overseas citizens of India. So this article mentions that these four pillars are very important, or they play an important role in reviving the economy. So let us look at the different strategies discussed in this article. Government can help big businesses in the way of tax exemptions by giving them tax exemptions or easing restrictions so that they procure raw materials and goods easily. So these tax exemptions and ease of procurement will allow big businesses to operate functionally with 100% functionality. So this revival in big businesses in return will help in increased consumer demand and also help in the functioning of MSMEs or ancillary industries like street vendors, etc. This article also mentions how India can be made a global trading hub. Now, RBI can consider a single time window for loan restructuring. Now, we've already discussed what loan restructuring is. To refresh your memory, it is an agreement between the consumer and the bank so that to ease the loan restructuring is an agreement between the consumer and the bank such that bank will reduce the burden of the consumer in repayment of loan, like reduced interest rates or reduction in monthly installments, etc. So if RBI could open a single one-time window for loan restructuring, it will help businesses avail credit without any disturbances. Now, incentives for global companies. Now, if government is to provide certain incentives like tax exemptions or ease of restrictions for global companies, it will attract more foreign investments so that they will come and set up their manufacturing units in India. Now, certain companies which have their trading units in China want to come back to India. So, government can devise a 5-year plan strategy to bring at least 60% of the companies which are willing to come back to India. Now, industrial cities. States can identify their cities and earmark them to make educational or industrial, commercial or residential hubs. Let me explain. Let's say there is a state called A and there are 5 to 6 cities in the state. So the state's duty is to identify the potential in these states, in the cities, and make them into different hubs. Let's say city number 1 can be turned into an educational hub, and city number 2 can be made into an industrial hub, and city number 3 can be made into commercial hub, and city number 4 into residential hub, and city number 5 into a tourist hub. So while states making these cities into industrial cities will help in attaining self-sufficiency. So all these factors help in India becoming a global trading hub. Now, support system. This article mentions that government needs to extend its support to certain sectors for the improvement of GDP. One such sector is sunrise sectors. Sunrise sectors are new or upcoming sectors which are very fast growing and have the potential to become very important in the near future. Now, they are just budding sectors, but they have the potential to become important. For example, hydrogen fuel processing, food processing, and space tourism, etc. These are upcoming ventures but have the potential in them to grow fast and contribute to the economy or GDP. Now, deep tech sectors. Government should extend its support to deep technology systems like AI, artificial intelligence, robotics, data analytics, cyber security, etc. Now, startups. Around 60,000 startups in India are at the various levels of funding at the onset of lockdown. So they are facing acute financial pressure in the current scenario. So government can extend its support for those startups which can bring innovation and technology into the country. Now, auto industry. Auto industry contributes to around 9% of the GDP. When this is such an important industry which is now facing a lack of demand and lack of sales, government can provide certain incentives like reducing GST or forming an old vehicle scrap policy or giving tax incentives to revive sales or demand in the auto industry. This is a concept or a process in which government acquires the land and put in place all the necessary clearances, both regulatory and environmental, and also build necessary infrastructure like buildings, water sewage connections, roads and power. So basically government acquires the land and put in place all the necessary basic amenities and requirements and put it in the auction. So private players can gain this already established land and start their businesses. It will be very easy to start a business in a plug and play model. So it will also invite foreign investments. The state of Maharashtra is already implementing this plug and play model. So in this article states that the entire country need to adopt this plug and play model for the easy revival of businesses or for easy startups of businesses. Now, reforms in labor laws are required for increasing productivity. Now, reforms in labor laws should be both beneficial to the workers and to owners to increase productivity. It may include health benefits or basic amenities to workers. Now, if investments of NRIs and overseas citizens is treated on par with local residents of India, then they will get the motivation to invest more in India. So this article states that the repatriation or dividends of NRIs should be treated on par with Indians. Now, offshore investment. Government can plan an offshore investment city like Singapore, in which no Indian domestic laws or taxes are applied. So it will be very easy, or it will be an attracting point for foreign investors, also for the local investors, to come and invest in offshore investment, because no Indian domestic laws or taxes are applied. For example, India can consider converting the city of Mumbai into an offshore investment. These are all the strategies discussed in the given article to reinvent and reimagine the economy. This article states that Japan was hit by its biggest economic slump on record. Now, before going into the facts, let me tell you something about Abenomics. In 2012, during his second term, the ex-Prime Minister of Japan, Mr. Shinzo Abe, introduced this Abenomics. Under Abenomics, there are three arrows. One, monetary policy or monetary easing. The second is fiscal policy stimulus, and the third is structural reforms. Now, under monetary policy, government or Bank of Japan has printed additional currency of 60 to 70 trillion yen, which was circulated in the economy to boost exports. Also, Bank of Japan has started asset purchasing program worth $660 billion. Apart from that, Government of Japan has reduced its interest rate to below 0%, with a target to increase its inflation rate to 2%. Now, all these strategies are implemented under this monetary policy arrow to boost consumption or to increase GDP of Japan. Now, under fiscal policy, around 10.3 trillion yen was released by the government of Japan to building infrastructure, social infrastructure like bridges, roads, buildings, construction, etc. Now, in 2014, additional 5 trillion yen was spent for public infrastructure. In order to fund this program, the government of Japan has increased or doubled its consumption tax to 10%. These measures are supposed to increase consumer demand in the country. Now, under structural reforms, which are more complex, they've introduced certain corporate governance rules, and under structural reforms, Japanese government introduced certain regulations like corporate governance, easing restrictions to hire foreign workers in special economic zones, giving liberation to industry owners to fire ineffective workers, and liberalizing health sector, etc., to increase competitiveness in Japanese industry. Not only locally but also internationally, these measures aimed to increase Japanese industry's competitiveness. Now, the main problem the country faced was shortage of labor. The birth rate of Japan was around 6%. And the population of Japan was expected to reduce by 1/3 of its population over the period of 2010 to 2060. In order to address this issue, the then Prime Minister has announced Abenomics 2.0. It includes, this scheme intends to increase birth rate of Japan, and also provide pensions and improve social security to senior citizens. It also provided free preschooling to children who are coming from poor income households. Now, all these measures helped in the revival of Japanese economy and improved its GDP. But now Japan was hit by its biggest economic slump on record, bringing its GDP to decades low. The reasons behind is because of lockdown, there is no private consumption and there was reduction in exports. An article concluded by saying that the world's third largest economy shrank by 27.8%, which is an alarming rate. This article discussed the framework or the guidelines released by the RBI in setting up of an umbrella entity for retail payment system. Now, what is a retail payment system? It is the transaction retail payment systems or funds transferred or transacted in lower values but in larger volumes. The retail payment transactions can happen between two consumers or a consumer and a business or two business entities. Now, traditionally, the purchase of goods and services happen at POS or point of sale. Now, this can happen in two ways: attended and unattended. For example, I want to buy a pen. I will go to a shop, pay some 10 to 20 rupees to buy a pen. Here, I am making the payment to the person in charge, to the shop owner. So, this comes under attended because physical presence of a person is needed in making a payment. Under unattended payment, there is no requirement of physical presence of a person. For example, vending machines, where physical presence of a person is not required to make a purchase. So, traditional modes of payment in retail payment system are cash, credit, debit cards and credit cards. As the technology advances, we are moving away from traditional modes of payment to using something like mobile phone or internet banking or UPI interface, etc. So, this illustration here tells or gives a brief overview of how retail payment system works. So, the consumer is making a purchase from the merchant. So, traditionally, consumer will have to go to the merchant or the point of sale to make a payment. Now, because of the advancement in technology and with the introduction of new modes of payment, consumer he doesn't have to go to the merchant to make a purchase. He can make it online. He can give the payment to the financial institution, let's say a bank related to the consumer, and the bank through a network will settle the money to the financial institution of the merchant. The whole process of this retail payment system is overseen by NPCI, government owned National Payment Corporation of India, which was established in December 2008. Now, this NPCI is responsible for the introduction of FASTags, UPI, IMPS, etc. These are the modes in which consumer is making payment to the merchant. The Reserve Bank of India released a framework for setting up a pan-India umbrella entity for retail payment system, which means RBI is inviting private players to invest in retail payments entity. In simple terms, RBI wants another players similar to NPCI. Now, what does this umbrella entity do? The umbrella entity will set up, manage and operate new payment system in the retail space comprising ATMs, white label POS, Aadhaar based payments and remittance services. Now, what is the scope of these new players in this system? They can venture into something like tolls or transit payments, digitization of public fare or bus fares, etc. Also, rural payments. Here's an idea. There's an opportunity to improve rural payments. Now, we all know that internet connectivity is low in rural areas. So, they can come up with an option like purchase now and pay later. For example, a rural consumer or rural customer can purchase a good now by using his mobile phone, and the payment to the merchant can be settled later when he has the internet connection. This is an area which needs improvement. What are the guidelines or criteria established by the RBI for the private players to establish a pan-India umbrella entity? The first criteria is the company should be registered under Companies Act 2013. Next, the minimum paid up capital should be around 500 crores, of which 10%, which is 50 crores, should be shown at the time of making application. And each promoter of the company should not invest more than 40% or should not invest less than 25%. For example, a company, let's say a company A wants to apply for a pan-India entity, and there are 4 promoters or shareholders in the company. Now, according to this guideline, each promoter should not invest or should not have shares worth more than 40%, which means of the 500 crores, each person or each promoter should not invest more than 200 crores, not less than 125 crores, which is 25% of the 500 crores. So, eventually in the span of 5 years, this minimum of 25% can be reduced further, but for now it should be between this 25% to 40% area. According to RBI, each promoter of the company should have at least 3 years of experience in payment system arena, and each promoter should qualify fit and proper criteria under RBI. Now, what is fit and proper criteria? Each promoter or a person should be honest and should not be convicted in any criminal or civil cases in court of law, should not be declared insolvent, and should be financially sound. Only when they qualify under this fit and proper criteria, they will be eligible to invest in this particular area. So, you can ask a question, when there is already NPCI present, what is the need of another players in this area? RBI wants another private players in retail payment system to increase competitiveness. This competitiveness can bring in fresh and innovative ideas into the retail payment system. So, the private players should have to come up with their own ideas which are similar to FASTags or UPIs to be adopted by the financial institutions. So, RBI also mandated that there should be coordination between NPCI and any private player which are willing to set up this umbrella entity, so that consumers will have more options and not confusion. As part of Atmanirbhar Bharat, government announced that it will be announcing certain strategic sectors under which government will have a maximum of only 4 public sector enterprises, and the remaining enterprises will be eventually privatized. Now, the sectors other than the strategic the sectors which are not on the strategic list are also will be eventually privatized. So, this article mentions here that the government is selling its stakes in 4 public sector banks. They are IDBI Bank, Bank of Maharashtra, Punjab and Sindh Bank and UCO Bank. Now, there are two reasons why government wants to sell its stake in these public sector banks. The first reason is to adhere to the guidelines of Atmanirbhar Bharat, but the second reason is to raise finances. Now, this process of government selling its stake in public sector entities is called disinvestment. Disinvestment is a process in which Indian government sell its share or stake in public sector entities to raise finances to bridge revenue shortfalls of the government. Now that the government's revenues are low and its expenditures are more, in the current scenario, RBI is forced to sell its stake in public sector enterprises to raise revenues. Now, we've already discussed how the lockdown prompted increase in food and fuel prices, which resulted in increased inflation. Now, this increased inflation forced RBI to cut its policy rates. This we have already discussed in one of the previous video, but this article specifically mentions or stresses the fact that RBI is at the end of its rate cut cycle, which means RBI is not in a position to make any further cuts in its policy rates. With this point, I'm winding up today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please go back to the video and make note of important points that will help you in examinations. This is Dr. Spurti signing off. Thank you. Happy studying.